purpose is a very, very important word. And I'm so convinced that each one of you has been created by God for the purpose. I mean, one is to love Him, to worship Him. And the other one is to find out which works has He prepared for you. He has prepared works for Richie. And it's like your life's quest to find out what has He prepared for me, and then to enter into those prepared works. So purpose is a very important concept, and God's kingdom visible in the marketplace. Maybe just like on Sunday, some people are in church. There are many, but there is many that are not. And on Monday, most people are at work, hopefully. If they don't have work, I hope they will find work, because we're made to work. Will come later on to why this is so. And when we worship on Sunday, we should also worship on Monday. And the kingdom of God that is visible on Sunday should also be visible on Monday. And just recently, when I'm sometimes with my wife, we watch movies. And so recently, I'm just asking the questions: who in this movie is a good person? Who in this movie is a person that seeks the good of all, good of others, and is not selfish, is not willing to betray his or her friends? Who makes the difference? And when you look at that, it's people that choose to do right that are the hope of a movie. If a movie has nobody that is actually wanting to do good or estimating others higher than himself, then the movie is hopeless, and I switch off. I cannot handle movies without hope. So I'm maybe too romantic. I also love happy ends, but I love hope. And in a business, there needs to be people that are not just running after their own good, not just running after their own profit, but are seeking the highest of all. Then there is hope in a business. There's hope in the marketplace. So we are wanting to strengthen people that are committed to the good of all, so that God's kingdom will be visible in the marketplace. That's understandable. So our customers, maybe 70 or 80% of our customers are Christians. Some are not, but we don't hide our values. It's clear on the website that we are a Christian company, so we do not play around it. We make it plain. So if you want to change something, first of all, the people have to change. So the entrepreneurs have to. I mean, one big change or one big development is growing your trust in God, not striving, not worrying, but really putting your trust in God, seeing God as your provider, and not your customers as your providers. And seeing yourself as a steward and not as an owner. Seeing God as the owner, asking God, how should I as a steward best steward this business? What decision should I take so that your business, God, will prosper? So it changes, it always changes first at the heart of people before you can change the company. You know, you can do all tricks, all what the best consultants say in a company. If the hearts of the leaders are full of greed and full of rivalry, then all those good tricks of the PricewaterhouseCoopers and Ernst & Young and whatnot, all those Deloitte consulting companies will not bring forth good, you know. I mean, who you still knows that we had a bank in Switzerland called Credit Suisse. Have you ever heard of it? I mean, that was a bank for 150 years with a big reputation. It was number 2, sometimes number 1 between UBS and Credit Suisse. Really, nobody would ever have thought that Credit Suisse would one day fail. But because of the greed of the managers, the bank went down. It's no longer. 2 years ago, Credit Suisse was done with. So there's no Credit Suisse anymore in Switzerland. We only have one big bank now, which is terrible. It's the greed of people. They took so many risks because they were greedy, so that at the end, they failed. So we developed alternatives to the common economic system. So I'll share some of those alternatives with you today. I already said that. So God's business is not producing steel, it's not producing oil, it's not producing goods, it's not producing food. God's business is training people, walking with people, having fellowship with people. So, in our conviction, businesses are a means to an end. They're not the ultimate. Of course, I mean, if you work in a company developing medication against malaria so that less people will die of malaria, or a vaccine against sicknesses that long time ago many people died of, and now they're no longer dying because they have this vaccination, then you're serving people. But again, our medical companies, and especially the stockholders, are so greedy that they charge ridiculous prices for this medication, that what was intended to serve people now enslaves people. No. So I don't know how long Novartis, Roche will still be there. If there are people in Novartis and Roche that fear God. And that's maybe the hope of those companies. If there wouldn't be people in there, it's like Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham negotiated with God. If there are 100, if there are 50, if there are only 10, would you still spare? God says, if I find 10, I will spare it. But he didn't. So I hope we find more than 10 in Roche and Novartis. Those are large chemical companies in Switzerland. And I hope those 10, or hopefully more, will make a difference. So it's about people. God is after the heart of people. And of course, companies are there to serve others, but not the pockets of those that invent. Of course, God wants to provide for those that work there. But there is a difference between getting a salary to live and robbing others with a big bonus. So, are you with me on that? So it's about people. And actually, who of you has done an ETS in Ireland?
Who of us has done it?
Yes. The majority. Almost all. And so you spent 3 months lecture phase, 3 months outreach phase, or 2 months outreach phase. And so if you count those hours, 3 months, 12 weeks, 42 hours, that's like 500 hours lecture and 500 hours outreach, so it's 1,000 hours. A normal worker in Switzerland spends 2,000 hours at his workplace. Twice as long as you spend in BTS. Now that's either he learns something in those 2,000 hours per year, or he doesn't. And if as a leader of a company you really have the understanding that people are more important than what you do, and if you have a mindset that actually the people that work in your company are entrusted to you, so that you would help them grow in their personality, in their character, in their skills, then you have plenty of opportunity. So actually what we're saying is, companies can also be DTSs. If the leaders see people first and not their products first. Now God calls us to excellence. We should not be lousy about our products. If we do something, we should do it right. We can do it, we should even do it excellently. But because we're called to do that, because we are trained to do that, we're equipped to do that, and because it serves others. So let's serve others with excellency. Is that understandable? Right now, are there questions, comments? Those are somebody just wants. Yes.
Yeah, I think it is more challenging when you have values that focuses both people and the products. But because there are companies who solely focus on the products.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I am just thinking that it will be more challenging. When you focus both on the people and the product.
Yeah. You know, we have the term human resources, HR.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like resources, you use it. Like fuel, you use it. When I put it in my tank with my car, after a few days, the car is empty, the tank is empty, I've used those resources. You know, we speak of rare earth and all of that, all the things that are in our mobile phones. Those are natural resources. And they are trying to reclaim some of those, but there's still a lot of hands that are being thrown away and not put back in the cycle. So the resources are just used once and forever. Now, if you speak of humans as resources, it's kind of a dangerous term. It's like, let's just use them. And once they're weak, we just get new ones that are still fresh. We use them till they're weak, then we send them away and we get new ones that are fresh. You know? And we're so convinced that it's not the way it should be. That people, we should provide in business, in the church, in nations, always provide as leaders. You should look after your flock. And a shepherd looking after the flock. I mean, you want the sheep to do well. You want the sheep to be healthy. You want the sheep to be happy. You know, you're looking after your flock. And yeah, that's a responsibility that we're trying to share with the business owners and leaders that God puts us in touch with. Just a few, those are some of the things we're doing. Leadership coaching, employee development, that's an important aspect. How can you help your people grow? So we do training on that, we do coaching on that. How can you as a leader really make sure people grow and are not used? So even if they work 10 years for you, 20 years for you, they come out of the business not totally exhausted and burned out. They will come out strengthened, equipped for new things. So I'll just, maybe an important part here is just the last one here, succession plan. Last year, I was working with 10 companies just in the change of generations, how to hand it over to the next generation. So with 5 of them, by January 1st, there were new owners and new leaders in place. And with 5 others, I'm still on the way to figure that out. That has to do a lot, succession plan has to do with finding out about the calling of potential new owners, new leaders, has a lot to do with relationships. Are they reconciled with all those around? Can they work with the team? Are there conflicting situations? How can we handle that so that the way is open? And then it has to do with the equipping. What if somebody wants to take up the leadership of a company? That needs some skills. You need to know something about finances. You need to know something about processes. You need to know something about legal questions, about financial aspects, and about the process in the business. How does it work? How do you make decisions? Who are our main customers? Who are our main furnishers? And so you have to make a plan. How do you equip somebody to take on a new role? So it comes back again to this equipping somebody and not selling it to somebody, to the one that gives you most for it. Because usually if you do that, then it's a large company that just buys you off, so they have one less competitor, and sooner or later they will close the shop. Well, that's a bit cynical, but unfortunately, in many places, that's what happened. Just on values. In one company that I'm working with, there are 6 people in leadership, but every day they're a day older, and they're looking for successors. And so talking to those 6 says, well, what is your goal? What is your expectations on the new leaders? They said, well, we would love for them to lead the company after our own heart. That's legitimate, you know? I said, well, what is your own heart? If one of those that are candidates to take on would ask you, well, what is your heart? If you tell me, lead the company after my heart, what is it? Well, it's obvious, you know, but there's nothing written down, you know. So we had a process where we just wrote down what is important, what is actually the heart of the owners, what do they sense is their God-given calling on the company. It's a company with 100 people. About half of the workers are Christians, half of the leaders are Christians. And so we wrote down, we defined their values, their mission, and their strategy, so that those that they're asking, are you willing to take on, would actually know what is expected of them. And could say, well, I'm accepting that, I'm willing with that. Oh, here I'm struggling, I don't think I can do that. So it gives basis for a discussion. And it's also a tool for discipleship, to define the values. What you believe is the God-given task for this company. How should you treat your customers? Essentially, furnishers.
Believers.
Those that you buy the goods from to do something. How do you call it? Is it furnishers?
The one who delivers.
Yeah. So how do you treat those different target groups? So in our company, we also have a department that deals with the finances of our customers. One that does the bookkeeping and actually pays the salaries of the workers. My colleagues, they have access to the bank accounts of the companies, and from there they make sure that all the workers get their salaries and all of their social security fees, all that. So we're paying salaries of hundreds of workers in small companies where it's just too much administration for those carpenters and masons. They just delegate that administrative work to us. But then we also do the tax declaration, and then we also have another department in our company where we then audit whether they do it well, whether they follow the law, whether it's according to all the regulations, and then they write a report And that goes to the tax department. We've just checked the books of this company, and we can say we have not found any indication of any wrongdoing. So we recommend that you accept their report. So, but I'm also like, there's quality labels that a lot of customers are now asking for those quality labels. They only work with companies that have those quality labels. One quality label is just that you're well organized, that your processes are clear. One label is that you take care of the environment, you do whatever you can to reduce pollution. And one certificate that I'm dealing with is about you make sure that your workers are safe, that you do prevention so that they will not get sick. We're buying leather shoes with Napa leather that is produced in India, where children are standing in chemicals that are ruining their feet. That's not to blame any of the Indians. We're buying that, and we're paying so little that they cannot afford having better conditions, So we are as guilty as those that are producing it. And this label, just says, well, we need to know where our things come from. We need to promise, and we need to be assured that there's no child labor involved, that there's no violation involved in producing. So those labels should actually raise justice and raise care for the staff. There'll be less accidents at the workplace, so the bosses have to do everything to protect their staff. Yeah.
Could you elaborate on how do you make sure that no child labor is involved in the product that you are buying? Is there a contract or label?
Yeah, actually, if you want to have that label, you need to have the signature of your furnishers that they don't do that. They have to promise. You also have the right to go and visit your furnishers to see how they're producing. So some of my customers, they go to Turkey to see how they're producing their materials that they are using, and so on. So there's no 100% guarantee, but you're just keep creating awareness. Another label is that you use only wood, like for carpentries, use only wood. For example, one is only out of Swiss forests. You don't do tropical wood out of Cameroon, out of Brazil, the Amazon, where those are the lungs of our earth. If we keep just cutting down, we'll be out of breath one day. So that's another label. So we're helping our customers to actually organize the process so that we'll get those labels and that they can keep it up. So that's another. Just to be responsible employers towards the environment, towards your staff.
I think that's a very good point, because we just don't want to be the consumer who just consume. It doesn't matter from where it is coming. As long as it fulfills my need, I'm happy to have new sweater or jeans. It's good to think a little bit in this direction, what work we put behind that. As you said, it may not be 100%, but when you ask a question, it does make an effect, and people need to now say, okay, if we are doing, we have to stop now. Otherwise, we lose the customer or something.
Exactly,
So it does bring us some changes and responsibility,
So those are things that we're helping our customers with, just to be righteous and to take on the responsibility they have. It's not just a profit. They have to think on the whole chain of delivery. Yes. So our company was founded 33 years ago. It's a family corporation. We're not big. Right now we're about 22, as you saw in the picture. So, Bible speaks more about finance than about salvation. If you don't believe it, you can check it. maybe it does not always use the word finances, but material goods, salary, payment. And the Bible gives us guidelines for a healthy economy. For the middle one, steward, that's a very important, very, very important concept. And actually, we do something quite radical in our company. When we walk with kind of a startup, that's when a new company starts. They actually there's a notary coming, like a legal person, and that does all the documents so that you form your shareholder company, all of that. So that's the official part. And at that time, you have the statutes you sign. Those are the owners or co-owners of this business that has needed to be started. And you have to pay a certain amount in order to be able to start a company. And then there's a second document that they have to sign. Or they have to. We encourage them, and they do. And it's a contract between them and God. And it says, God, I hand over the business to you. It's no longer mine, it's yours. I'm your steward. So they sign that, and there's a time of prayer. And so the new company is God's and not theirs. When I was there the first time when I saw this, I was quite amazed. We have a Christian notary that does things with us, so he will even do that part. And then the prayer, he will also join in. But I thought it was radical, but the more I thought about it, I said, well, it is not radical, it's just right. It's right. How can anyone say this is my business? Can we say it's my business? We can say it's my responsibility, yes. That's for sure. It's my responsibility to be a good steward. Yeah. So that's maybe just one thought on how we look at business. The Bible tells clearly about us being stewards. Whatever is given to us. And even in the parable that Jesus said, he gave to one, I don't know what it is in English.
Talents?
The talents. Was it 10, 5, and 2? Or was it 5, 2, and 1? I don't remember.
5, 2, and 1.
5, 2, and 1. Okay, good. I go with you. Anyway, so they were given something, but not that's yours. It was given to them. I'll entrust you with those talents. Please work with them so that they would grow. So it was given to them. What they were given a business. They had to find a way how that money could work. So they all, the one with 5 and the one with 2, they did business. The one with 1 did not do business. He buried it and gave it back when he got it. So he did not work, he did not accept the challenge to be a steward. I jumped this because you've read all of this. So again, here the mindset, faith is the courage to take risks and to actually rebel against the world. And what I really like, and Emmy, you're from Holland? Yes, and I'm really impressed with the Dutch. In Holland, 26% of the landmass is beyond sea level. A quarter of the nation is below sea level. Sometimes even up to 6 meters below sea level. And yet, they just built dams. They built all of those dams to prevent the ocean or the North Sea from flooding this. And so they rebelled against the ocean and just stole the land from the ocean in order to provide room for their citizens to grow tulips. It's a land of tulips and cows.
Yeah, cows are here as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, once I flew over Holland on the plane when there was a tulip season. It's like a carpet. I mean, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. Okay. So they rebel against the word, take the land, like what he said to Adam and Eve, subdue the earth. The Dutch do this. And 2 weeks ago, Amy, I found out that, as I said before, that my ancestors were chased from Holland.
I heard that.
And actually, I did a DNA test.
You're Dutch.
And I'm 40% Dutch.
40%.
40%
Okay.
Dutch. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was a revelation.
That's nice.
So
Yeah, that's good.
I'm even more proud of the Dutch now. No, and I mean, you all, Joshua, George, awesome, in Africa, the whole forest, all of that. The fight against deforestation, desertification, planting trees. There's a lot of initiatives going. It's very, very difficult because of the lack of fuel, and many people cook with wood, and they go for the wood even further. So there's kind of a counter movement. We all know that you need to cook, and if you don't have anything else, you need the wood. But at the same time, trees need to be planted so that desert will take over. So that's also the rebellion against the world. Kenya, is it Turkana? In Nairobi is not yet the danger of forest, but it's up north, is it, towards Sudan? Do you know of any projects in Kenya about planting trees?
Yeah, there is one of the Green Belt movement.
Okay.
So they're doing the forest ecosystem.
Okay.
So they're trying to plant the trees.
What areas in Kenya are they doing this?
In Narok County.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are some. There's an initiative for individuals to do on their own.
Yeah.
But the government supports them decisively.
Yeah.
But also there is a government initiative whereby they try to they plant new seedlings to the government forest which people have already cut down.
Yeah.
So it's actually something that's happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
But still a long way to go.
Yeah.
There are lots of trees that are there.
Cut. Yes. So, what is our concept of work? What do you think when you hear work? Kan je het even schrijven met hem hier? So I'll not ruin anything. Okay. Nee. What are your spontaneous thoughts of work?
Job.
Profit. Giving opportunity, creating jobs. So integrity. I have my guess.
No.
Your gut level feeling about work.
Getting paid. Getting paid.
Obligation. Like you have to do it.
Complication.
No.
Obligation. Okay.
Yeah, there will be complications.
Yeah, sometimes it's complicated too.
Responsibility.
Possibility.
Responsibility.
Responsibility, okay.
Hard work, honesty.
Labor, just hard work.
Time.
energy. Takes energy.
Energy, okay.
Yeah.
Yes. And so on. Yeah.
Service.
Service. Now, if you look at now, this is I mean, you've done a DTS, you've been around Christians, you've been a Christian, so that's quite sanctified already. General young people, just or just general population, how do they see work?
Life. Life.
What's a burden?
Important.
It's a burden.
Life.
A burden.
A burden. Okay, sorry. Yes. I mean, some they think, well, you know, Monday morning you start looking forward to Friday evening. You know, so then you enjoy Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday morning you start looking forward to Saturday, Sunday. You live from weekend to weekend. You live from holiday to holiday. And you know, I'm sure you all have heard the term work-life balance. You know, work-life balance means there is work and there is life. And that's work-life balance.
Like you're not alive.
So is there life in work? No. Life is here, work is there. That means you work, you're dead. You don't work, you live. Can you see that? It's this work-life balance is not about the concept. Imagine if we are called to work. How, can it be that there is no life in work? Is that imaginable? I mean, if we are called, are we called to lay around?
We are called to take a Sabbath, but not lay around the whole.
Yeah. But we're called to take a Sabbath. That means there must be an alternative to the Sabbath.
Yeah.
It's not the whole life that is a Sabbath. There is something else than the Sabbath, and that's a call to work. And so there must be life in work. So that concept here is definitely not a godly one. No? So we can speak about life balance, you know. And that can be contemplation, time with God, media, consummation, social media, whatnot. Can mean work and time with family, time with relatives, neighbors. There's different spheres in our lives that has to be kind of balanced out, but it does not mean that there is no life in work. Yeah.
What the question you asked, what is our concept of work? I think it goes very deep down to the worldview question.
Yeah.
Because you see things through how you grew up or how, because there are also belief that you have to work now because you're on this earth, you have no. So it's really a question of much deeper than just your work ethics. It's more how you see life, how you see work.
Yeah.
Because for us, it's creating, it's profit, it's living life in work.
Yeah.
But if we go with these two, like balance and life, and of course, it's terrible.
You know, in that picture, it's kind of, it promotes a negative view on work.
Yeah. It's kind of a burden, like, oh, I have to work now because I have to survive.
Yeah.
There is no living life of fullness in abundance, but it's survival mode. You work because you have to survive on this earth.
It is challenging, you know. I mean, I've seen in Kenya, I've been to Madagascar, Well, it is challenging. But if you see what you do as a calling, God never promised us to become rich. Some are, many are not. But He promised to provide, and work is a means to do our part for Him to provide for us. So when I just go further here, work is worship. And I'm just coming to why it's. Some people, what? Is work a blessing or a curse?
It's a blessing. Because, yeah, it's a blessing. It can be a blessing and it can also be a curse.
I think it all depends on the attitude that we have towards the work that we are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the purpose of our work.
Yeah. And of course, the attitude of those that we're working for has also an influence, It's challenging, but Jesus speaks so much about slaves, or Paul, about slaves, how they should, what attitudes they should have, how they should serve God. He did not say there should be no slaves, but he said that to treat the slaves right, and the slaves to have a good attitude. So even there, I'm struggling with the concept of slaves. But Paul did not say we should not have them, we should treat them well.
But in the concept of that time,
Was different.
the context of that time, I think.
Yeah.
I guess it's also responsibility to take care of these people that were slaves. Anyways.
Yeah.
Big thoughts, yeah.
So I've met people that think that we have to work because Adam ate the apple. Are you with me? Some people think because Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden, that's why we all have to work. But work was given to Adam and Eve before they ate the apple. God told them, take care of that garden. Isn't that work? Take care of that garden. That means you have to weed, you have to cut, you have to water. Taking care of a garden is work. Period. So they were given that work. Plus, they were also given the job and give names to all the animals. It's quite a job too. I don't know how they could keep the names of those animals. I don't know whether they could write or not. Do you know if they could write or not? If God can make, people out of dust, He might also be able to give them the knowledge of writing in one instant. I don't know. But they were told to give names of the animals. Are you with me? I'm not making this up. And we read in John 5 verse 17 that God works and He will work eternally. Now, if God works, He created the world in 6 days, and on the seventh He rested. He worked. So, if God works, how can work be a curse? Are you with me? Yes.
After the fall, God cursed the man, and then it becomes difficult to, I don't have to sweat to get food, and that is the difficult part.
That's the difficult part. Yeah.
The same thing
So,
now. Once
your
you don't have
complication was right as well, besides the obligation. Yeah, the fall of Adam and Eve made it complicated. Yeah. But the original idea of work was there before the fall, isn't it? And the Hebrew word for avodah or avad is the same term for worship and for work. So the Hebrews, they use the same word for both worship and work. And Jesus asks us, we should do things, or God has prepared work for us. I said that in the beginning. And in Ephesians we read, work with enthusiasm as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. So it doesn't say we should work, I have to do this work, with a bad attitude. No. Of course, yeah, we're sweating, and sometimes it's hard. But if we say, well, I do it for you, Lord, because you pay the price for me, I'm giving some back with my work. I worship you, I do it so that you'll be seen in what I do. And whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for man. Again, we are encouraged to work for God and not for people, even though it's the people paying us salaries or God providing for us through those people. And so work is a divine purpose. Is that you? Would you agree with that, or is that challenging? You're probably the youngest. Oh, Richie, and you, who's younger?
You is the youngest.
Yeah.
Ask him. He's the
Yeah, I think it's very important, especially with, I think, my age, I think people want to make a definitive truth about what work is, right? And that has a lot of influence based on workplace environment or family or generation or traditions or generational things. So I think it's a really nice thing that if you see work as part of your life, and it's a part of a worship, and it's how you actually glorify God, I think in a way, and as you mentioned earlier, it's like it's about your attitude and how you look at things. Right? Yeah. Are you working only to get a salary to pay for the basic things or just to get by, or is it to glorify Him and to help other people? Right. So I think it's very good. And I agree with this. It's like if you believe that your work is something that's truly purposeful for glorifying God, then I think it's very much so. You're a lot more inclined to do it well, I think. Yeah. So it all comes like you mentioned earlier. It all comes with the people and how the heart is placed.
Yeah. So you could embrace that, or
I think for me, it is something that work. If everyone embraced that, I think the work around would be a lot more better.
What I often do with people when we speak about their calling, we say there's different elements to your life. Who of you loves doing puzzle? Anyone? Some of you do. Okay. Yeah, I have some big ones that I love doing. Somehow I just missed it. Anyway, so like life is made up of various things, and one of them is work. It's what I do, what my contribution is to God's provision. And I do it wholeheartedly. But one part of my life is family. One part of my life is friends. Another part might be church fellowship, community, And maybe God, family, that might be the small family, like if I have a spouse, if I have children, but it could also mean my siblings, it could also be my parents, we should honor our parents. So that can have different things. And so when we speak about life balance, not work-life balance, we mean those are areas you might, we already have church fellowship neighbor. You're also a neighbor. You know, if God has placed you somewhere, you have people that you run into on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. Maybe you have a word of life for them. Maybe you have a smile for them. Maybe you indicate that you'll be there for them in case of need. You know, so those different areas, having a family is a calling. And a family should not get the leftovers of your strength, but should get a good amount of your strength, because every child only has one father, has only one mother. Of course, there can be important aunties and uncles and grandparents and teachers, but you've been entrusted with that child, so give it as much attention as it needs. And that means life balance. Besides work, you also tend to those different areas of your life. So that's more when we speak about life balance. And all of those are, I would call them areas of calling. Wherever you live there accidentally, or you live because God has provided that place to live for you. Have you looked for that place? Have you involved God in asking where you should live? And God knows all of your neighbors. And also, so we could say, well, so much God loved this neighborhood that He sent Joshua. And God so much loved this family that He sent George. So we're always sent into an environment to be Christ-like, and therefore spread life, hope, perspective. I'd just like for you just to go in small groups, and I have there's one flip chart there, one on that window, or one on the tables, just 3 groups. I just read the passage out of Matthew 16, or is it Matthew 16 verses? No, Matthew 20, 1 to 16. So you all have your Bible or your mobile phone. And the question is, what principles do you take out of that passage? Matthew 20, 1 to 16. So how should we go with the groups? I would go the simple way, as always, just count to 3. Mm-hmm. One will be at that door there. The middle one will be, the 2 will be at that table. And number 3 would be on that.
So we see principle of generosity, and this is when this guy he goes to look for people. Usually people go to look for work, but he goes out to look for people, to give them opportunity and to get something at the end of the day. We see fairness when he's at the end of the day he's paying them, and he pays everyone the same, which shows that he was creating balance, and that is a principle I think that we observe here. Yeah.
And he also he kept his promises, and he stood on the promises that he made, especially when people questioned him, like how come he gave dinar for the workers who worked for too long time, and also the last minute worker. He said, like, I promised you dinar, and then I gave it to you, and I didn't pay you less, or I didn't pay you more. So that's what I promised, and I gave my promise out there. And I can also see his love, because he generally, like people, they search for work, but he went out to search for workers who are in need. So I can see his love, And also another value is like reaching out to the needy people, because like he really sees the need of people, what they want. So he invited them, not they came and asked him, but he went out and asked them. And also another thing what we can see is like we have to be happy for others' success, not to be jealous or envy of. That can really kill peace. But if we have peace and happy, that can kill our jealousy.
Yeah.
So this is what we also talk about in Joshua.
Yeah, he be happy for other success. He asked them when they questioned him, why are you paying them the same? We came here first. They just came here an hour ago, and it just shows that he asked them, am I not supposed to? Am I not? Isn't it my money? And we should celebrate that he was able to get pay in the end of the day and also go to his family with something. Why are you looking just? Why are you not? Don't you care about your friend or your brother? So we should be happy for other success, also for getting the job. Stewards, it's about we are what he was given by God. He wants to share it. He doesn't want to. He would have stayed back and said, "I don't need more people," and will still have the denaries for himself. But what he
No,
has,
it's not fine. I still cannot hear you here in Nigeria.
taking care of it. We are the ones who are taking care of it, and that was a very important, principle.
Cannot hear you here in Nigeria.
The last
I still
one
cannot hear you here.
is do what is right to do. It's not about the feeling what we want, but it is like our feeling may not be right all time, but discerning what is right includes a lot of pure wisdom, and that's what needs to be done, not based on feeling or based on our moods or whatever. Because we can actually see the statement that owner was saying, like, haven't I done what is right? So when we do something what is right that needs to be done, there will be no more questionable on it.
Also, he would have chose to pay the first people, and they will leave. There will be no this misunderstanding, but still, it starts from the first. It is uncomfortable to be asked these questions. Why are you paying us the same? But he chooses to do it. He was intentional to choose to pay from the last.
Yeah.
And so it is more like he wanted to do the right thing. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Group 3. So who comes and presents Group 2?
Actually,
Yeah, but
because of
there's
the
two,
number,
it's-
Oh.
We have the wrong one.
Because he
I mean, I just wrote the order.
Okay. Who comes and presents this?
yeah.
Okay.
I told you.
Let's do it together. We do it together. We do it together.
Wow.
Yeah, so we also found that generosity, found that the owner of the vineyard was very generous, and he was mainly people focused. When he went to the market a few times, he was not looking for, oh, I need more workers for the vineyard. That might be true, but he was looking for the people, and the people were standing around. So he was really looking for the people. And making people take responsibility, because he asked them, like, why are you just standing there? He did not just take them to work, but he made them think. He asked the question. And he could also just give money, but he did not do that. He gave work, he created opportunity.
Yeah. So valuing people is a very, a big thing. That the work is really about the people are really the most important in the focus. Yeah. We said that already, but and also integrity, because the boss, he kept his word in the end. He gave the same amount that he promised to the first workers. And we also could imagine that was really actually not very. We could imagine these workers that came first and worked the whole day in the heat. Yeah. So now also comes generosity in the picture. Like
And at the end, he did not try to please the worker, because if he wanted to please them, he may give more for the one who worked all day or less for the others. But that was not his goal. His goal was to serve them and equip them. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So, who comes to explain to us all the understandings of this? G?
Yeah.
You?
Yeah, so the parable begins with the kingdom of heaven, and it starts with a master looking for workers who are standing idly. So basically what that would be, we took it as in like idle workers or people who are willing to work but they don't have an opportunity to. So I think we can look at that as a biblical business model, that we reach out to certain people who are idle but they are capable of working. And it was also mentioned throughout the parable that every hour, every third hour, the third, the sixth, the ninth, and then the 11th hour, the master went out looking for people. So as businesses, we should always reflect, also trying to be always open and looking for good, finding and making opportunities for everyone, right? And what's really interesting is that a denarius in that context was the wage that they get for a day's work, right? So it wasn't like a fixed amount. It was just what you earned that day is what you were paid. And what was really interesting for us is that the early morning, so the denarius is right here, and it was constantly repeated in the parable that the master would say, for the other workers, I will pay what is right? But that was for these workers, the third, the sixth, ninth, and 11th hour worker. But there was workers in the early morning, and they were the ones that actually had an agreement and a contract saying that, hey, if you do a day's work, I'll pay you a denarius. So they were under kind of like a legal obligation. So what I got from that is that there's multiple different types of workers. Like not all workers are the same. There's some workers that need legal agreements and codes, but there's also workers that you need to have a little bit of more grace and fairness to. Right? And then what we realized is that, so basically the early morning workers were the one that complained in the parable compared to the rest, and they were annoyed because of that, because they thought that the workers that were working less hours or paid the same amount of them. But it was an interesting thing because those workers that complained were the ones that was actually agreeing to get paid what they were paid, and they were paid, right? So what we can see from that is often, I think our two biggest takeaways from this parable is that when you as a worker focus only on the money and how much you can earn, right, you'll be a lot more annoyed, you'll be a lot more entitled, which is a huge thing, right? Because despite their agreement, they thought they deserved more because they looked at other workers. and they're always comparing. So I think it's, as a biblical business, you really have to look at your workers and see how to kind of treat each other. And then lastly, which was, I think, was one of the more important takeaways, is that the biblical perspective on business is the last comes first and the first is last, which is really interesting because I would say every business model is first come, first serve, right? If we have,
as I just said.
Yeah, it's whoever, we have a product, we have a service. If you're there first, we'll give it to you. It doesn't matter who you are, right? But this is more, a biblical business model is more focused on making sure that the people who come last have a opportunity to be the first one to serve, which is a really interesting model. So yeah, that's kind of what we took away.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes. You think that the ones that started early in the morning, did they see work as worship? No. If they would, what would have been their reaction if they would have seen work as worship? Would have been their reaction seeing others getting paid as much as they get got?
They would not complain.
They would not complain. I worship God all day long. You only worship Him for 1 hour. I mean, is worship good? Is it the pain? Mm-hmm. Is it the nuisance? I mean, really, the first ones here must have had not the biblical perspective on work. Now, just if you could choose, what would you prefer? To be the one that starts early morning in the heat and knows all day long that you'll be able to feed your family in the evening? Or you prefer to be the one standing in the marketplace, worrying, not knowing when you'll have something to feed your family in the evening? Which is better?
It's a good perspective, yeah.
Sitting in the shade, worrying, or working in the sun, sweating?
Nothing in the sun.
I personally would prefer to work and be at peace that I would feed my family in the evening. But the way it's put here, those guys, they thought, well, they had fun, sitting under the tree, doing nothing. Mm-hmm. I mean, doing nothing is not always fun. We are created to work, and not having work to do is you're missing your purpose. But the parable shows us how people view work, and those that started first had a wrong concept of work, isn't it? If they had thought, well, work is our calling, work is worship, that would have changed their response.
And also, I think comparing is something that it's very self-centered thought, because we compare because we want to be in best position to find out that I am better or I deserve better at least. That's why we compare. Nobody compares that to find out the others is a better people, but so that's why I think it's also a bit very self-centered thought that, now I work whole day and get the same, and now they work only 1 hour and still get. So it's really this comparison, it's self-turning around. You're not seeing other person. So it's very dangerous something.
There's one thing guaranteed. If you want to be unhappy, just compare yourself with others.
Yeah.
Then 100% sure you'll be unhappy. Because you will never compare yourself to those that are less fortunate than you. You'll always compare yourself to the ones that have more, And so comparison always makes you unhappy, for sure. Are you with me? Yes. So, there's a few scriptures that I have here that you could just meditate on. Just God has thoughts about business. It's not, that's not my business. Let others do that. He has thought about it, and this parable is just one of them that speaks of that. Now, and I will, there will be a fullness of information, and I'll just trust that one or the other things might just hit you and be something for you. It's not now you need to know all of that, but I just trust that some things will fall on good soil in your hearts, and you'll find a way to apply that. Maybe vision. I started out this morning, with purpose is very important. And vision has to do with purpose. Why do we do what we do? Now this worker here, he cuts a stone, and it's hard work. I've seen that very, very hard. Stone is hard. Usually you're out in the sun, you're sweating. This one does exactly the same, but it says, well, I work for a window. Okay? Does exactly the same, but he looks a little happier than this one. And this one here, he says, well, I'm building a cathedral. Well, a cathedral starts with stones. And a cathedral has windows. And whoever works does some small job that belongs to the big picture. And so whatever we do, like those guys working in the vineyard, worshiping God, that we're building a temple of worship. Whether we do it in the vineyard, whether we do it in the car mechanic shop, or whether we do it here being a student at Wellington, we're building the kingdom of God in our behavior towards God, attitude, and towards one another. Or have you ever heard of the Sagrada Familia?
Talks about it.
You talked about it already. It's a church in Barcelona. They started to build in 1882. The architect for sure is no longer alive. Those that laid the foundations are no longer alive. But it's a long-term project. It's a long-term vision. Let's build this church. And whatever we do not finish, others will come after us and continue on. And so we are contributing to building the kingdom of God in our attitudes, in our hearts, in our relationships. And we will not finish. There are others coming after us that will continue building the kingdom of God, His presence on earth as it is in heaven. So they say they should be finished by 2026. They just change that date every once in a while, but one day they might be finished. So, when was the kingdom of God started to be built? Well, is it at creation? Is it even before? Is it when Jesus came? I don't know. I would guess it was very early. We don't need to settle that. Long time ago. Before the Sagrada Familia. Finished by, again, there. Is it when Jesus comes back? I have no. What is your guess? When is the kingdom of God built?
It's everywhere where children of God are coming together, doing God's work. They are building, but it's not finished. I think it will be finished when Jesus comes back. That's my thought.
Any better idea? There's no right or wrong. I just don't know. I would also say the same as Emily, but maybe you have a better.
I think in a very simplistic or understandable way, kingdom of God, it just refers that God is king and His will is done. So wherever His will is done, there is a kingdom of God. I don't think it is something will come, but it's already among us and through us.
Yeah.
The way we walk, the way we treat each other.
Yeah.
What is the will of God to really see everybody blessed and see growing, and I don't know, no wars, no cry, no gnashing of teeth, and joyful growth. I think that is the kingdom of God.
Yes. Well, but we are part of something bigger.
Yes.
And even those guys working in the vineyard, whether you start morning 6 o'clock or you start afternoon 5 o'clock, you're contributing to the kingdom of God, you're doing your part, and God provides for you through you doing your part. Yeah, maybe just on the succession plan that I told you before that I've been involved in, there's just two. I'd just like to share that's just one of the, let's say, seeds. We have two lines. We have the individual or individuals, where it's about calling. Am I called to take on responsibility in this organization, in this mission? Right now, the question is about new-based leadership, who is called, relationships that are reconciled, and people being equipped. I talked to Boston in the break, how to equip people, taking steps. Like, first I do it, and you look, then we do it together. Then you do it, and I look, and then you can do it, and I'm available from far. But there are steps of equipping, clarified roles, it's a very important thing, and secure continual support and advice. Just the day somebody takes on leadership is not the day when the person doesn't need advice or support anymore. It's like you need to make sure that whoever takes on your leadership role has some continual support in place. Because not that it's not just from one day to the other, you become from imperfect to perfect, and now you're a perfect leader. No. You believe God has sent you, you step in, but you need to secure support. And then we have, on the other side, we have the company. As I said before, clarify vision, values. When I said about the company, it says, well, lead the company after our heart. You need to define what the heart is. Formulate goals for succession, like when should the company be handed over? Do the previous leaders are they still around? Do they leave? Do they just reduce or whatever? Priorities, timeline, also expectations on selling price. What do I think this company is worth? What do successors, like a wine base you don't buy, but some businesses you do. And then you say, what would be plan A, plan B, plan C, and then you have to say, well, let's follow this. If plan A doesn't work, we follow plan B. If plan B doesn't work, we follow plan C. Like in one that I had last year, I think we're about plan I or J. It took us 2 or 3 years until it was clear what final versions would come about. Compose new leadership and clarify roles, follow up on plan, clarify legal and financial questions. That's some people that just want to jump to the finances right away. So how much does it cost? Let me pay, and off I go. No, we said we need to clarify calling, team, relationship, roles, and once all of this is set, then we can talk about costs, about finances, about legal matters, because first the calling needs to be established, and the equipping needs to be clear. Then we can talk about finances. So it's not the richest that should follow, it's the one that is called, or the ones that are called. Does that make sense? No. It's not the richest that will buy your company and become your successor. It's the ones that are called, and then you work out a price that they can afford and that you can be happy with. If you're greedy, then you might go for the richest, but that might not be the best for the company. Because we believe that there's also a calling on companies. God has put companies in place with a certain calling to serve a target audience. So those are just some, principles that we apply when we do succession plans. On the calling, this is the 4C. When you speak about with somebody about their calling, one thing is what are they enthusiastic about? What is their passion? What they want to see children get. You want to equip children. You want to, as you have been equipped and served as a child, as you grew up. You have a heart. Did I get that right? educating children and teachers, okay? Yeah, so that the teachers could actually, again, and so everyone has, hopefully, some passion. But it's a question to find out what is it. Then we all have character, and some can handle pressure more than others. Some find it easier to make decisions than others. And so our roles should also be, we should take into consideration what the character of the person is. Like in one succession plan last year, there was one lady, she was leading a clinic, and she was totally capable. She was excellent in the work she did. But it became obvious that with her character, taking the responsibility for the clinic and becoming the new owner would crush her. So it was, even though she's an excellent professional, she, in her character, it would not be the right thing for her to take the main responsibility. So it became clear, and somebody that has a different character, that is probably more robust, maybe not as skilled in the profession itself, but can handle pressure and can also easier make decisions. If you're a perfectionist, as I'm sometimes am, you sometimes are, it's a bit more difficult to make decisions because you just want to avoid mistakes by all means. You just want to make sure it is good and good and good. And others, they find it easy to make decisions, and if things are not exactly perfect, it's still fine. So those are character matters. Is that understandable? Then context. What do you see yourself in a large company? Do you see yourself in a small company? Do you see yourself in a Christian organization? Or can you imagine being in a non-Christian organization? How far are you willing to travel every day? How much salary do you really need for your family? Those are all context questions. Is that understandable? What languages do you speak? And then we have the competence. And very often people start with that first. What are your skills? What have you learned? What is your basic training? But then what experience have you made in life? Where have you taken on responsibility? Where have you made decisions? Where have you overcome problems? And maybe that is the next one. Let me just quickly see. I had one slide. Oh, this one here. Have you seen that? Which plan do you prefer? The top one or the bottom one? I would prefer the top one, to be honest.
Me too.
But if you have the top plan, you arrive here, you say, well, I can really make good decisions. I can really overcome problems. And I can really solve conflict. You can ask, well, how do you know? When have you learned it? When did you prove that you can know this, that you can do this? You're not sure, you don't know. But like if your life has been that way, which you prefer not to, then you can come here and say, well, I've really learned to overcome difficulties. I've really learned to solve problems. How do you know that? Well, here, and here, and here, and here. You yourself, what you've been through. You yourself know how you got out. And it needed some skills, and you developed some skills to get out. Does that make sense? So when we come back to this one here, to the competence, it's not just your diplomas. The competence, not just the diplomas, it's your life experience. You know, I mean, did you ever get a diploma for being for looking after cows? You didn't.
Yeah. I didn't.
But I'm so sure you learn things for life.
Yeah. I don't have the paper for looking.
Yeah, but I'm sure you learn things for life.
Yeah.
And whatever you will do in the future, you'll come back to things you learned as a boy, tending the cows. You know? I mean, you had to take responsibility. You had to be brave. You had to stand up. You had to take authority. You had to lead the flock, you know? And you had to stand the sun. And so on. You learned a lot. So that's part of your competence. It's not just the papers, it's your life. No. Is that those are just some, a calling of a person is made up of those components. We call it the 4C model. No. Yeah. Well, I said in the beginning we're looking for alternatives to the worldly economic system. I'm just going through some. I just picked out some, and today I'll only share on some. You know, common principles in business, we seek income and gain. You know, the more profit, the better. Biblical principles, we seek our calling and desire to fulfill it. And if it's being a businesswoman, a businessman, this is our calling, then we do it. But the same as we just read in that parable, providing opportunities for others, serving others so they can feed their family, serving others so they can grow their skills, help creating room for others to walk in their calling. So in the world, profit and growth is the goal of our labor. In biblical terms, profit and growth is the fruit of labor. It's not the goal. We work, we worship, we walk in our calling. And the consequence of this, God will provide for us through it and provide for those that are working alongside us. Is that understandable? And we seek short-term profit. That's usually, you know, what they do whenever the large companies in difficulties, they just chase the managers, they hire new ones, they just release hundreds or thousands of workers, and then the stock value goes up. Imagine if the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona would be built that way. You know, it's just up and down, up and down. No, it's just solidly. Long-term, step after step, faithfully. So, we're part of God's plan of stewarding the earth on a long-term perspective. As we said, the kingdom of God started building thousands of years ago, and we're still involved. And don't know when it will end. There's no, like for Sagrada Familia, there's a date for the end. With the kingdom of God, there is no date. As far as I know, Jesus told us not to speculate on dates. I also said about the work-life balance that we speak of life balance and no longer of work-life balance. You know, I come back to this, different spheres of our lives, and work being one of them. And so we try to keep a balance of the different areas in our lives. Is that understandable? I already said people are human resources in the common world for God's business, and therefore ours as well. We're not employed, but we are called. Again, I mentioned that we own our business. No, we are stewards. In the world, you know, with all the labor unions, they are needed, you know, because some employers really misusing or abusing workers. So labor unions needed to correct that. But nowadays they're very much on rights. Workers have rights. No, workers have responsibilities. No. Yeah, you need to treat them responsibly, of course. And here, management, in the word, management is put in place to produce monetary results. No, management is put in place to understand God's purposes for a company, for its workers, and facilitate its fulfillment. Again, you see the role of a manager as a steward. God has a calling on each of the workers. And as a manager, as a leader, you cooperate with God. How could we equip those people to take on the role, to enter into their calling? It's not how could I get rid of my work and find somebody else that does it. How could I equip somebody to do my work? You see the difference? You know, in the world, money is a means to bring forth our intentions. You know, money makes things possible. Money makes the world go round, and what other songs there are about money. But if we really look at it closely, then money is a means to bring forth God's plan, God's intentions. So we're entrusted with some goods so that we can make sure God's plans are happening. And maybe just leaning towards the parable we just read and discussed, you know, justice is not equality, the same for all. Justice is each one gets what he needs to fulfill his or her calling. If you're called to evangelize rich people, you might need some goods to actually even get in touch with them, you know. Yeah, just as a very blunt example. I'm just highlighting, you know, very often problems and pain should be avoided. So that's what kind of society tells us, avoid problems. But then, you remember the picture I showed you about God's plan, my plan? You know, the cycle rider on a straight line? How do we learn? We don't learn just reading books. Of course, also. But we learn when we apply things. And how do you learn how to solve problems? Only when you have problems to solve, is it? So we should not train problem avoiders. We should train problem solvers. And in order to do that, we expect problems. Problems is not the end of the world. Problems is a chance. It's an opportunity to learn. And we've had you've heard the story of Barabili. Terrible problems that I never wanted to have. But I never experienced God's provision as much as I did in those terrible problems. And God's faithfulness and His provision and His care and His mercy on us. Those are lessons of life. I never would have chosen those problems. But God chose them, and He got us out of them, and we learned some lessons. Maybe here, people are promoted based on degrees and potential. That's sometimes in the world, you know, high potentials, and then they get the black belts or they have how they rise in the companies. No, they should be promoted based on character and stewardship. Are they good stewards? Are they servants, or are they just playing power games? One very important principle is this: in the world, people do things so that they have, you know, and once they have, they are somebody. You know, I don't know what it is in Kenya right now, I remember when we had a lot of refugees from Sri Lanka, to have a black leather coat was the ultimate goal. So then you're part of it, for them. If you have the young people from Serbia or Kosovo, I'm not totally sure, but to me it looks like it's a BMW or a Mercedes that is tuned. Tuned means it makes a lot of artificial noise. It seems like this is the thing. You work so that you have this BMW or Mercedes, and then you are finally somebody. Now with Swiss people, or have a house, maybe have a mobile home. I don't know. There are things depending on what your friends are. The danger is that you just strive to have so that you finally are. But this picture of doing, having, being leads to a lot of burnouts, a lot of fatigue, a lot of emotional breakdowns. The thing is, we are sons and daughters of Christ. We are co-heirs with Christ. And out of that, we don't need to prove ourselves. What God is asking us, we need to be faithful to what He's called us to, and need to be diligent to get equipped to do what He's called us to. And we need to be people of integrity in fulfilling what He's called us to do. And for some of us, this might mean a lot of money, and for some of us, this means not much money. And when we die, the one that had much will be as poor as the one that had nothing. We cannot take one dime to heaven. We'll all go there for nothing, other than our relationship with God. So we don't need to strive to have. Let's strive to really be children of God, to be co-heirs with Christ, and to fulfill what He's called us to. Because that, maybe just one last thing. Yes. Usually, when you look at the organization of a company, very often it's like, up here you have the boss, then you have his substitutes, and then you have another layer of team leaders, and then at the bottom you have all the workers. It's like a pyramid like that one. Have you seen flow charts like that? I have a customer that just did it differently. Says, as the owners, as the leaders, we carry the whole thing. Then we have team leaders that are there carrying portions of it and developing people. Then we have department leaders that are having a group of people that they help to be successful and to train. And if you have that view of leadership, and your task is equip these people, you will never run out of work. If you have that picture and you try to keep your position, you try to keep everybody else small so that you will not lose your position. That's what happens a lot. People fight for their positions. If you just inverse the pyramid, then you don't have to fight. If George equips 10 and Seema equips 12 and Moni equips 8, Jesus did 12, maybe Balsam will do 15, maybe Richie will go in depth and have 5 disciples that will change the world, 5 Reinhard Bonnke's. We don't need to compare. But there's no fighting for position. If we're all faithful in our place, seeing our role, whatever we do in releasing other people, equipping them, then we'll build the kingdom of God. I think I'll finish on that line. That was in a nutshell, and just giving some glimpses of what it could mean, have alternatives to worldly economic principles. So I'll hand it over for questions, comments, or over to you, Moni.
Yes. thank you very much. Let's take this time for questions first. Yeah. I believe some of you have questions. There are many things.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really inspired by this, like doing this business model from bottom up.
Not set them up for failure, but just giving them responsibilities that we have not clearly trained them in. Yeah, we are helping people to be successful in what we're doing. And if people say, well, I would love to have another role in this company. Actually, I've now done this, now I know how it goes, I would actually like to see another area. Then you listen and say, well, we'll look for an opportunity. And when it opens up, we'll involve you. And yeah, so we're listening to what you're doing. We're not saying, well, if you don't like what you're doing right now, then just go. No. If you believe there's another area of our company that you would really like to get involved in, then we're trying our best to really make room.
Yeah.
So it's not like this. It needs to grow.
Yeah. So it's also very relational.
Yeah.
Because like my experience is, if I wanted to do another role, I just have to wait for a vacancy. I have to apply within a company, and then there's 5 others who apply, and I already feel like, oh, I'm hopeless. No chance.
No, for those internal changes, they don't even have others apply. You know?
Yeah, no, but it's also internally you have to apply, because it goes very, it goes official, which is also for a reason that it's official, because they want to give everybody a fair chance.
Yeah.
Like in a big, I worked in an institution for, I mean, you have to really be relational, I think.
Yeah.
Of course, it has also to do with what kind of person you are as an employee, how well you connect.
Maybe just an example, in this company, I work a lot with them, those that have this pyramid. They have clear principles, how do we want our people to be treated? And they actually call, all the department leaders, they call them shepherds. And they all got a carved shepherd, that cost about 250 francs, just one of those. I got one as well. And just put this on your desk and remember always you are a shepherd. And then they gave a book about the shepherd principles. How do we want you, shepherd, to treat our sheep? And now there's one that did not treat the sheep the way they wanted. They talk and say, you cannot treat workers like this in our company. Just not now. He got a second warning, and now last week he was fired because he was not a good shepherd. He scolded people, he put them down, he did not lift them up. So that's not the way you want to treat our sheep. If you cannot be encouraging, uplifting as a leader, we cannot have you in our company. He was an excellent craftsman. What he was doing, he was the best in the whole company.
Wow.
But they could no longer hold him because he did not look after the sheep. Product was more important than the people, so he put the wrong priorities.
Yeah. Yeah, I also think that it can be tricky. You really need to look at the attitude, at the heart of the leader, and of the manager, because he can also behave in a certain way, but his heart is actually, it can be very subtle. I don't know how to say, but and to discern the difference, because it requires a lot of trust and a lot of empowering people, but also also you can set yourself up for failure.
It's always a risk.
It's a big risk.
There's no guarantee that you will not fail.
No.
I think there is a guarantee that we will.
So I have a question, how do we compete with the wife
with, because it all with business, Christian business, it all comes down to honesty and trust and biblical values. While in the world there is grace that and compromise that is lead with that, and in the end of the day, with the business, I need profit. So how am I able to compete?
Yeah.
Well, they are not
Well,
using the same rules.
It has a lot to do with trusting God and being a good like seeing yourself as a student, as a steward. It might be not sometimes it might take a long breath, or but I totally believe that if you are faithful, God will be faithful to you. And the Bible tells us again and again and again, if you're faithful to me, I'll be faithful to you. If you obey my laws, I'll be faithful to you. If you walk in my ways, I'll be faithful to you. Again and again and again. So if you're faithful in being a good steward and looking after people in your business, I trust that eventually, like, I mean, I told you Credit Suisse, our large bank, they were making profits and profits and profits. Billions, but because they were getting greedy, they went down and they're on a loan. So it looked like for years that, this greed and this all risk taking and all that really pays off. But on the long run, it didn't. So I put your trust in God. It's, if you need profit, I mean, God is clever. He knows that you need profit to pay you a salary to workers. You don't need to remind him. He understands that. And he sent them to you so that through the business he could provide for them. There's nothing that could justify just being greedy and unrighteous. And just putting out your elbows. I don't see any justification for that. Then you are on your own. If you want to have God on your side, you better play according to his principles.
Just to add, I totally see your question, and this is the question we as a believer have. I think it goes down to, it's not an easy thing to bring it, it goes down to your values. Why do you have a business? Of course, to create opportunity, but also to have enough for yourself. And you need to create this culture of trust and integrity, because in the end, your business is people, and if they get good quality, for example, you create good shoes. Even though your shoes are expensive a little bit more than others, people might still use and feel so trustworthy that they will come back and buy from you because of the quality you deliver. And it will not happen overnight. You need to build that trust. But in the end, I think we have been mistaken by the world that say you have to lie a little bit, you have to put a little bit shortcut to get a profit, but we need to change this. So it will take a whole time to really see. But it's a long-term thinking. We have this also in India that it's kind of, if you need a profit, you need to, not always, but mix a little bit. So you faster getting a profit, but no. What if you pay a lot of money and it still gets cheated and not get good product? You don't go there again. So I think it's really trusting God, but also having, because the world is flowing like this, and we being a live fish, we need to swim against the current, and it does require prayer partner support and determination.
And again, if you observe the business world, the hope in the business world is people that are upright. People that are seeking the good of others and not their own. That's the hope for the business world. All those that are just running after their own profit, there's no. Might go okay for a while. That's not where my hope lies for the business world. It lies with people that are upright, seeing their role as God given. Does that?
Yes.
I did not say it would be easy, Joshua. I don't see another way. convinced of that because people say, "Well, are you stupid?" You know, you might hear that question several times. Well, it might look like. Let's see at the end.
I was just thinking, when it comes to selecting a team leader or giving promotion to someone, if someone is very excellent in their work, very competent or something like that, and then but not very good in character or handling pressure, stress, and if the other one is more able to handle the pressure or stress but not very excellent in work, whom would you choose in that case? How would you decide?
I would choose the one that can handle pressure. And I would put the one that is an expert at his side.
Mm-hmm.
So the one that can handle pressure will just back up the specialist.
Mm-hmm.
So the quality will be high, but the specialist could actually work on his specialty and not be crushed by responsibilities that he's not made for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think, we are made differently to complement one another. I hope this
Yes.
answers your question. If you have, let's take those two then.
Okay.
George and Paul.
Just in that same question, what if you're in a situation you just need one person and you have this one, like GSA, and the other person, who can handle pressure and is not good in that, and the other one is good, but you can not handle pressure, and you have to take between
one.
Yeah, you don't have to have different people.
Then you're already there because you're hiring somebody. That means you're already there. Then you need to find ways how you can protect the specialist that will guarantee high quality, good produce. That the person will not be crushed. So then you need to be kind of shielding the person. And just really have an open ear whenever things get difficult. Please come, I'll stand with you. Does that answer you?
Yeah, sure.
We're all made so different. And so we really need to complement one another. You cannot just, this is type A, this is type B, and let's place in here, it will work for us. You have to look at individuals and just make sure we provide a frame that they can actually excel, do their excellent work and help others.
I don't really know how to ask my question, so I'll phrase. In my country, for Christians, business is seen as something bad. Christians don't. It's not a general thing, but majority of Christians still think that business is not good because it's all about money, and Christians should not be rich. Christians should be just content with what they have and be poor. So I am wondering. I know that we should not be greedy. We should be not be materialistic, but God also wants us to have abundant life.
Yeah.
So what does it mean, and how can we, I don't know, what is the perspective, the right perspective towards that? You said earlier that some may be called to be more rich. Some Christians may be called to be more rich because their calling is to reach out to richer people, and some may have less. But do Christians should be poor or rich?
I think I would say this is, in that context, maybe not a helpful question. But if you think, if one day you will have children, and they will not be missionaries, but they will work someplace, would you prefer for them to have Christian owner of a business where they work, or to have a non-Christian owner? No. If Christians are not in business, that means Christians have left the business world to the devil. Period. No? If you don't go in there, then you've left it. You've given up that whole domain. And if somebody goes into business, it's not primarily a question to get rich, but to provide an environment where people could actually fulfill their calling, grow, and develop. Where they have an environment that is safe. So they will not be taken advantage of, but they will be part of a team. So it's about building the kingdom of God. It's not about becoming rich. If you're in a trade that needs a lot of investment, like machinery, buildings, all of that, then you might need a lot of money in order to invest to provide more working places, safe working places where people can belong. So, but it's not. Business is serving people, not getting rich. And if after all you get some of it as well, well, let's rejoice. But that's not the goal. The goal is to build the kingdom of God in the business world and not hear it out of the devil. Quite simplistic, isn't it? My answer.
But the thinking that Christians should be poor, like.
No, well, who said that?
A lot of people in my country. If I am a Christian and I wear expensive clothes, I would be very much judged. Like, why do I use my money for that? Why I don't help it to use it to help poor people, So.
No, well, that's a different topic. It's like, should you show your richness and make others envious? That's not a question. But you can be rich at serving others without showing your richness, unless where you're called to, you need to have some posh clothes.